Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
It was 7:02 in the morning on Sunday, December 7th, 1941. 22 miles north of Pearl Harbor, at a place called Opana Point, two young soldiers were working at a special radar station. Private Lockard and Private Elliott had been on duty since early morning. They were ready to close down, but their relief had not arrived. As they watched their radar screen, they saw something very strange. A massive green signal, impossibly big, was moving very fast toward the island of Oahu, where the important naval base of Pearl Harbor was located. They had never witnessed such a large signal before. Private Lockard immediately called his superiors. The warning reached Lieutenant Kermit Tyler at Fort Shafter's Intercept Center. Lieutenant Tyler was a young officer and did not have much experience with radar. He was also expecting a group of American B-17 planes to arrive that morning from the mainland. He thought the big signal was these friendly aircraft. "Don't worry about it," Lieutenant Tyler told Lockard. He believed there was no real danger, dismissing the clear sign. This was a critical warning, a direct signal of danger. Yet it was completely ignored. Why was such a clear sign of trouble not taken seriously? This question would trouble America for many years. It was part of a larger problem where many pieces of important information were known, but they were never properly understood together. This would later be seen as a big failure in how the country gathered information. The day before, Hawaii was very peaceful. It was Saturday, December 6, 1941. Jazz music played in clubs and sailors danced. On ships like the USS West Virginia, there were parties. On the USS Arizona, sailors played chess. The weather was perfect, warm and sunny. People laughed and enjoyed their time, thinking only of relaxing on a beautiful Sunday morning. They imagined going surfing or enjoying a leisurely meal. No one had any idea of the terrible events that were just hours away. But far across the ocean, a large Japanese fleet, called the Kido-Butai, had sailed 3,400 miles in secret. This fleet carried many airplanes. These planes were now flying silently towards Pearl Harbor, ready to attack. Their goal was complete surprise. Exactly 53 minutes passed after Private Lockard made his urgent call. At 7:53 in the morning, the first Japanese bombs began their terrible descent from the sky. The serene and unsuspecting morning was about to become a moment of unimaginable disaster, changing the world forever. 2. A long time before. Before the attack on Pearl Harbor, a long chain of events led to war. It started years earlier when Japan began fighting in China. The United States watched this with growing concern. By July of 1941, Japan had moved its forces into southern French Indochina. This move greatly angered America. The United States took a very strong action. It froze all Japanese money and goods in American banks. This was not just a simple ban on trade. A U.S. official described it as full-blooded financial warfare against Japan. Japan's military machine depended heavily on oil. Its Navy, Army, and Air Force all needed petroleum to operate. With its money frozen, Japan could not buy oil from the United States, which was its main supplier. Japan felt a great chokehold. It faced an impossible choice. Either surrender to America's demands and withdraw from China, losing all its gains, or find another way to get oil. The only other large oil source was in the Dutch East Indies, but taking it would certainly mean war with Britain, the Netherlands, and most likely the United States. Inside Japanese military leadership, there was much debate. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto was the main planner for the attack on Pearl Harbor. Yet in early 1941, he privately expressed deep doubts. He wrote, "If I am told that it is necessary to fight regardless of the consequences, I can only say that I am afraid we will lose." He believed Japan could deliver a strong first blow, but he knew Japan could not win a long war against America's vast power. The attack, he thought, could only buy Japan some time, maybe 6 months to a year, to secure its positions in Asia before America fully recover. This raises a big question. Why would the man who designed the attack believe it was doomed from the start? His mixed feelings showed the tough situation Japan was in. Yamamoto understood the huge risk, but he also felt forced to act when other leaders pushed for war. On November 26, 1941, the U.S. gave Japan its final terms, known as the Hull Note. It demanded that Japan leave China and its alliances and withdraw from French Indochina. For Japan, this was not a proposal, but an order to give up everything it had fought for. It was seen as a national insult. Facing this ultimatum, and with its oil running out, Japan's emperor approved the war plan on December 1st. Japan's leaders made a desperate gamble. They chose war over surrender. Soon after this decision, the Japanese fleet began its secret journey. It included 6 aircraft carriers and many other warships. These ships sailed silently, without using their radios, across 3,400 miles of ocean. This invisible force was now heading straight for America's Pacific Fleet, a hidden dagger aimed at its heart. 3. The first attack. The attack started at 7:55 a.m. For the men on the ships in Pearl Harbor, time seemed to stop. The USS Arizona was one of 8 big battleships, all lined up like targets. Captain Franklin Van Valkenburg and Rear Admiral Isaac Campbell Kidd were on the ship. They did not know that Japanese planes were only minutes away. There were 1,512 men on the Arizona. Most were below the deck. At 7:57 a.m., the first Japanese planes attacked. They flew in close groups, so close that at first some Americans thought they were friendly planes. Bombers aimed at the Arizona. They dove down and dropped their bombs. These were special bombs. Each one weighed 1,756 pounds. They had fins to make them hit better. At 8:06 a.m., one of these bombs hit the Arizona. It landed on the right side of the ship, near a big gun. The bomb was strong. It went through 4 steel decks. It broke through 5.62 inches of armor. It kept going down inside the ship. It went into the front powder room, where the big gun ammunition was kept. What happened next took only 7 seconds. The bomb's small explosive charge, only 50 pounds, set off the huge amount of ammunition. There were about 582 tons of ammunition there. A huge flash happened. Hot gases quickly filled the rooms. They pushed hard against a thick armored wall. The gases could not go down, so they shot upwards through 3 decks. This broke the deck in front of another gun. People watching saw the Arizona become a burning ship. The front part of the ship rose up, twisted, and then bent in on itself. A tall column of black smoke went thousands of feet into the sky. The explosion was so big that special machines on the island felt it. Then more ammunition exploded. The ship's side pushed outwards. The bridge, where Captain Van Valkenburg and Rear Admiral Kidd stood, was gone. The deck turned into a fire. 1,177 men died on the Arizona in those 7 seconds. Another 335 men lived. Some were not on the ship. Some were thrown into the water. By 8:30 a.m., the Arizona was mostly under the water. The front part was broken and rested on the bottom. Over 1,000 men were trapped inside the ship. They could not be saved. They became a part of Pearl Harbor forever. Other battleships also faced terrible attacks. The USS West Virginia, next to the Arizona, was hit many times. A young man named Dory Miller was on this ship. He was below deck doing laundry when the first hit came. This ordinary man, who was not allowed to fight, was about to do something truly amazing. 4. A brave man. The loud sounds of the attack filled Pearl Harbor. On the battleship USS West Virginia, a young black sailor named Dory Miller was working. He was a mess attendant. This meant he cleaned, cooked, and did laundry for officers. At that time, black sailors like Dory were not allowed to be gunners or combat fighters in the segregated U.S. Navy. The Navy had strict rules. Suddenly, a Japanese torpedo hit the ship. Dory was knocked down by the force. The alarm sounded, telling everyone to go to their battle stations. Dory ran to his assigned anti-aircraft gun position. But when he got there, he found it destroyed. The ship was sinking fast. Water was rushing in, and smoke filled the air. Dory saw his captain, Commander Mervyn Benyon, who was badly hurt. Without hesitation, Dory helped carry the captain to a safer place on the deck. Then a brave officer told Dory to use a big .50 caliber machine gun. This was an anti-aircraft gun meant to shoot down planes. Dory had no official training to use such a weapon, but he acted quickly. He grabbed the gun and started firing at the Japanese planes diving overhead. He kept shooting until the gun was empty. Then he found more bullets and fired again. Dory later said he thought he hit some enemy planes. Many people saw his courage that day. A simple mess attendant, Dory Miller became one of America's first heroes of World War II. He showed amazing bravery, even though Navy rules said he should not be fighting. Other ships in the harbor also suffered terribly. The battleship USS Oklahoma was hit by 9 torpedoes. It began to roll over slowly, turning completely upside down. Men inside were trapped in the darkness. They heard the loud groaning of metal as the ship broke apart and water poured in. Some sailors tapped on the metal hull of the ship for hours, sending distress signals in Morse code. They hoped someone outside would hear them. A few men were rescued when Navy divers cut holes in the overturned ship. But many others died inside, slowly running out of air. As the second wave of Japanese planes left Pearl Harbor, Admiral Nagumo, the Japanese commander, had a big choice to make. He had a third group of planes ready to attack. These planes could hit vital places like the fuel tanks, repair facilities, and submarine bases. Destroying these targets would have made it much harder for the American Navy to recover and fight back. It could have delayed their war effort for a very long time. However, Admiral Nagumo was worried. He did not know where America's important aircraft carriers were. He feared they might be nearby, ready to attack his own ships. So he decided to be careful. He ordered his fleet to withdraw. The third attack wave would not be launched. This decision would become one of the biggest what-ifs of the entire war. 5. A big mistake. The Japanese planes flew away from Pearl Harbor. Admiral Nagumo, the Japanese commander, had to make a big decision. He had a third group of planes ready. These planes could hit important places like fuel tanks, repair shops, and shipyards. These facilities were still working. If destroyed, America would take much longer to prepare for war. Without fuel and repair places, the American Navy in the Pacific would be stuck. But Nagumo was worried. He did not know where the American aircraft carriers were. Big ships like the USS Enterprise, USS Lexington, and USS Saratoga carried many planes. Nagumo knew the Enterprise was in the Pacific. He thought other carriers might be coming to attack his fleet. If his own carriers were attacked, Japan would lose a lot. He chose caution. So Nagumo told his fleet to go home. He did not send the third wave. This was a very important choice. Nagumo did not know the American carriers were far away and not a danger. The U.S. Enterprise was 3 days away. The carriers he feared were not there. His decision, made from incomplete information, saved America from much more damage. Because of Nagumo's choice, America's fuel depots and repair facilities were safe. This meant America could fix its ships and fight again much faster than Japan expected. Within months, the American fleet grew stronger. Japan had hoped to buy a lot of time, maybe 6 months to a year, but America recovered very quickly. This made people wonder. Nagumo made a mistake that helped America. But why were the American aircraft carriers not at Pearl Harbor? Was it just good luck or something else? The Japanese planes flew north, leaving a harbor on fire. This left a big question for America that would last for many years. How did we let this attack happen? 6. The secret information. America had a big secret. It had a special program called Magic. This program let them read Japan's secret diplomatic messages. These messages showed that Japan was preparing for war. Washington leaders knew that talks with Japan were failing. They understood that a conflict was very likely to happen soon. But there was a crucial problem. While Magic could read diplomatic messages, it could not read Japan's secret naval codes, called JN-25. This was a very important difference. The United States knew that war was coming, but they did not know where or when Japan would attack. Most American planners thought Japan would attack places further south, like the Philippines or other parts of Southeast Asia, where valuable resources were located. This is why the American aircraft carriers were not in Pearl Harbor. Ships like the USS Enterprise were out at sea, often on training exercises or delivering planes to other bases. It was not a matter of luck that saved them. It was a failure to imagine that Japan would risk such a bold attack directly on Hawaii, so far from their homeland. This lack of imagination also explains why the radar warning was ignored. On the morning of the attack, a young lieutenant named Kermit Tyler heard about a large group of planes on the radar screen. But he thought they were American B-17 bombers expected from the mainland. He simply told the soldiers, "Don't worry about it." He did not imagine they could be Japanese attackers. The problem was much bigger than just one officer's mistake. American military intelligence was spread out and poorly organized. The Army had its own information, the Navy had its own, and the State Department had more. They did not share this information well. There was no single person or group to connect all the different pieces of information. No one could imagine Japan's plan. After the attack, two commanders, Admiral Husband Kimmel and General Walter Short, were blamed. They were removed from their positions, but later it became clear that the real culprit was a broken system. This huge failure would force the United States to completely change how it gathered and understood information about the world. It would change how America would protect itself in the future. 7. A new start. The attack on Pearl Harbor showed a big problem for the United States. The country was caught by surprise. After this, leaders made a clear decision: never again. They wanted to make sure such a surprise would not happen a second time. This strong desire led to important changes in how America gathered information. 6 years after the attack, in 1947, the United States Congress created a new organization. It was called the Central Intelligence Agency, or CIA. Before the attack, there was no main group to gather and connect all military and civilian intelligence. The CIA's main job was to prevent future strategic surprises like Pearl Harbor. It had to collect information from many places around the world and understand it well, ensuring America would always be ready. Later, in 1952, another powerful group was formed, the National Security Agency, or NSA. The NSA became very skilled at intercepting electronic messages across the globe. These new groups grew very large and created a wide network to watch for dangers. This vast surveillance system was born from the desperate fear America felt on December 7th. It was about preventing another hidden attack on American soil. However, as many years passed, the direct memory of the attack began to fade. The people who were there on December 7th, 1941, were getting older. Soon, the last person who saw the attack with their own eyes would be gone. For example, the last survivor from the USS Arizona, Lou Conter, died in 2024 at 102 years old. His death meant no living American had been aboard that specific ship during the bombing. No one could say, "I was there. I remember the sound of it all." Now, only historical records, videos, and stories remain. The USS Arizona still lies deep in the harbor, a permanent tomb for over 900 sailors who went down with the ship. The intelligence systems built after the attack were strong, designed to prevent any new surprise attacks. But as the voices of the last survivors go silent, a new question emerges. What happens to the echo of that terrible day when no one is left to tell the story from their own living memory? 8. We remember. Today, 84 years have passed since the attack on Pearl Harbor. The world has changed a lot, but we still remember that important day. Recently, the last living sailor who was on the USS Arizona during the attack passed away. His name was Lou Conter, and he was 102 years old. With his death, no one who was on that ship on December 7, 1941, is alive today. No one can now say, "I was there, I remember the sounds and the fire." This means that Pearl Harbor has moved from living memory to history. The stories are now told through books, videos, and monuments, not by the people who were there. The sunken USS Arizona remains a powerful memorial. It is a tomb for over 1,100 sailors who died that day. It stands as a permanent reminder of the huge cost of war. It is a timeless warning for everyone. Today, new tensions are growing in the Pacific Ocean. Nations like China are becoming militarily stronger, and Japan is changing its defense strategies. The Indo-Pacific region is once again a place of great competition between powerful countries. Some people wonder if we have truly learned the lessons from 1941. The most important lesson is not just about having strong ships or secret agents. It is about the danger of a failure of imagination. In 1941, America was ready for many kinds of attacks, but it could not imagine the bold plan Japan used. We must always think about what an opponent might do, even if it seems unlikely or impossible. In our modern world, we have powerful tools like artificial intelligence and vast spy networks. We collect more information than ever before, but are we ready to imagine what seems unimaginable? Are our systems good enough to connect all the small pieces of information to see a bigger threat? The USS Arizona Memorial asks us these questions. It tells us that not being able to imagine all possible dangers can lead to terrible outcomes. It reminds us to always be ready. What do you think is the most important lesson from the attack on Pearl Harbor for today's world?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.